What's up? Welcome back to a new video. So a couple of videos ago I mentioned that I want to start doing a better job at tracking progress and providing updates regarding my interior design business. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I own and operate an interior design business that focuses on redesigning and reimagining interior parts within the S2000. So today I kind of thought I would just bring you along for a product development, maybe prototyping style video, and just kind of do some work, think out loud, and just sort of bring you along for the ride. So the focus of this video and what I'm going to be doing over the next couple of days is finalizing the prototyping phase for this part right here. So this is a center console cover designed uniquely for the S2000, proudly offered by GT Goods. And this is something that I've been working on night and day, it feels like, for the last couple of months. What I'm going to be doing today is kind of finalizing the fit and finish of this part, because once the shapes are set in stone and they're, you know, certified, there's no going back. So it's really important that we get a fit and finish that we're happy with and that is going to be consistent and deliverable, because when people buy these, you know, all around the world, I want to make sure that I'm delivering the highest quality part that I can. So that's going to be the goal today. My goal with this project is to offer the highest possible quality, most premium fitting center console cover ever designed for the S2000, because there have been other products that are similar that have come in the past, but none have been designed like this one. So today I'm kind of just going to be playing with the cover. This is the most recent prototype. This is probably one of, you know, 100 prototypes at this point, but this is the one so far that fits the best. And so what I want to do is just do a little bit more tugging and pulling and making sure that this cover is, you know, the best possible version and best fitting version of this cover that I've designed so far. So I spent the rest of the day yesterday taking measurements and making adjustments to the prototype console cover, which is currently installed in the car right now. Then what I do is I track those changes onto a master document, which is sitting right in front of me. So this is just a really big paper model of what's installed in the car right now, but it's important for this thing to be perfect because eventually this paper model will be turned into a CAD document, and that's how I want to make sure that the highest level of quality and consistency and reliability is guaranteed in the final product design. So to this day, you know, after several hundred product sales, not one single person has ever come back to say, hey man, your stuff doesn't fit correctly or whatever, and it's because we use CAD. So pretty cool part of the process. Crazy how much time you can put into just a couple of pieces of paper. You wouldn't think it, dude, but this is actually months and months of work sitting on the table right here. Next thing we're gonna do today is we're actually gonna be unboxing a part that's old but new but old. Comment below if you know what this is. This is actually an early model part, so this belongs to the AP1 chassis, which my car is not. But the cool thing is that these trim pieces are actually universal across all years. The part that I'm designing in this video is actually going to be plug and play for all years as well, but I want to make sure that it's going to fit well with AP1 cars. So because this guy is a different design versus the later cars, it covers a little bit less surface area. I want to make sure that this part is going to cover all of the holes and cavities that I've kind of designed into the console cover, because if it doesn't, then it's going to present some complications, and then it might only be available for AP2 cars. And it's just, you know, those are kind of things that you need to know ahead of time. Put that down there. Okay, didn't damage anything. That's good. So I just uninstalled the AP2 center console, and I'm actually gonna put the AP1 console on now. This guy goes in like so. All right, well, it fits. It looks pretty good. AP1 console is officially installed, so I'm super happy to confirm the compatibility. I was scared for a little while because the console cover has cutouts built into it that allow for the shifter and the cup holder as well as the e-brake to rest inside of, but I didn't know if the early model console was going to expose some of those cutouts, because the later console, you can kind of see the indent for it here. It covers a lot more surface area, so it's kind of a non-issue, but with the early model console, I wasn't sure if you're going to be able to see, you know, any of those cuts or anything, but I'm happy to report that it looks amazing actually. Wrinkles and stuff are also kept to a minimum, so super happy with the turnout. This is a prototype, so I'm hoping that the final product is going to be a little bit better than this. That last 5% I think is going to get cleaned up, but overall it looks amazing. This rear section does have a little bit of wrinkling, but that's to be expected anytime you put fabric over a curved surface. But that being said, it still has a pretty tight fit overall. I know the seam here isn't super perfect and the top stitching could be improved, but it's a prototype, so go easy on me. Passenger side also looks really good. We have a little bit of wrinkling here, but like I said, this is to be improved. That last 5 or 10% I think we're gonna be able to get ironed out on the final version. A little bit of wrinkling on the backside here as well, but this is pretty much to be expected. Everything forward though can be cured. So overall, really happy with the fit and finish. I think that it's gonna look great once it's all finalized. Even with the last couple of details that need to be cleaned up, this is easily one of the best fitting covers that I've ever seen for this car. And trust me, I've spent a lot of time researching them, so super happy to be pushing something like this forward. I think a lot of people are gonna be really happy with it. So earlier I mentioned that I bought this entire console unit pretty much just for the fitment testing that you saw me perform earlier. And I'm pretty much done with that, so now that I can be confident in the fitment between the early model console and the console cover I'm designing, I don't really have a whole lot of use for it. I could hold on to it for product shot photos. I actually kind of like holding on to a couple of, different pieces in different colors, just to kind of have them ready to swap in for product photos, because I know some people like to see just their exact part matched up with like certain gear, and I think that kind of helps install some confidence in the purchase. So I'm not sure what I'm going to do with it yet, but I think I'm actually going to customize this today. So I think what I'll do is I'll wrap the armrest in Alcantara, and then I'll replace the foam insert that's installed from factory. You can see that it's a little flat and probably doesn't provide as much support as it did at one point. And I'm also going to replace the shift boot with an Alcantara boot by GT. So let me go ahead and get started with that. So not a lot of people actually go out of their way to customize the early model consoles, and the reason why is because on the back side you can see that it's got a couple of heat pressed tabs, if you can see that. So these are pretty much single use, so you have to get kind of creative when you go to uninstall them. This is an AP2 console. This is another one I'm working on, so this is in queue. So this armrest unit is just 4 Phillips head screws, if you can see that. So it like bolts right on. This is actually its own part number. You can replace this individually. So yeah, so it's a little bit trickier than it is on the later model console. Okay, so have the console fully disassembled. This is what the boot looks like. If you can see it, the stitching on it isn't super consistent, but that's, Japanese cars from the 90s. So there's that. Here's the retainer ring. This is the cup holder. These are actually all pretty gross. Looks like a good amount of coffee has gotten on all these parts at some point. Here's the console itself. Has some debris just kind of underneath there, if you can see it. But yeah, so it's pretty tricky. I mentioned earlier that a lot of these parts are heat pressed on, and so you have to really be careful with how you disassemble them, because if you don't do a good job taking it apart, it's going to be impossible to put it back together. So next thing we're going to do is we're going to give every part a pretty basic wipe down. We'll probably start with the console itself, get all of the years of coffee stains and stuff out from the crevices, cracks, crannies, and then we'll get around to actually installing the fresh fabric on the touch points here. Okay, so about 1 day later of drying, and this is the final result. So we gave the console a little bit of time to dry because there's obviously glue holding down the fabric on the bottom side of the console, especially around this armrest portion. Nothing has to be glued in for the boot to be installed, but that took a little bit of time as well. So this is kind of what we're left with. So maybe we'll throw this back in the car just to kind of get an idea for what the, fabric on fabric looks like, since we still have the console cover installed. So put this thing on. Oh wow, okay, this thing looks really good. So I was kind of thinking that this would be too much fabric, but now that I'm getting a good look at it, I actually don't think that at all. Maybe a little bit of coverage on the door panels could kind of even it out, but I think that this looks really good, and with the right steering wheel, with the right set of seats in here, it could be a really good fit. But let me show you what it looks like now. So here's the final result. This is the console fully customized and installed. And at first I was thinking that it might be too much, but after getting a good look at it now, I don't think that it's too much at all. Wow, super happy with how the armrest came out. Think that we made the right decision on foam and fabric layering, which you have to be careful with, especially with this design, because if you look at this panel gap right here. It's super, super tight. And if you don't get the right combination of foam and fabric, or if you don't layer them correctly, then you can end up with something that looks too full, too bulky. It almost looks like it's, you know, kind of trying to close the gap too tightly, and it just looks really obviously aftermarket, and that's not the goal. And I'm super sensitive to results like that. So I really wanted to take my time here. As you can see, we have really clean edges. The corners are nicely wrapped, no wrinkles on anything. So I think we really killed it with this section right here. You know, the more I look at this console design, the more I like it. And I think the reason why is because it kind of leaves more of this section up front exposed, where the AP2 console kind of comes all the way out and sort of leaves very little to be seen. You actually only really get the Alcantara effect kind of along the sides, but this one leaves it front and center, which I think looks really good. Even though this perforation pattern technically doesn't belong to the earlier cars, I think that it looks right at home. It doesn't look out of place at all. Almost has like a cool kind of retro modern effect, which I really, really like. I like bringing, you know, modern elements to classic designs, so I think that's super cool. Lastly, my favorite thing about Alcantara is the fact that you can comb the fabric. So you can kind of change the texture of it by wiping your hand across it. Be careful doing that with your bare hands, because you will leave oil stains and stuff behind, and it's gonna get really gross really fast. But with gloves on, it's all good. So I've been working on this console design for a couple of months at this point, and every day I get out here and I work on it, I learn something new, and so as a result, there's something to improve. So anyway, yeah, I guess I'm just excited to kind of push forward and wrap this thing up. So I think that's the video. I'm gonna probably cut it right here, so thank you for making this far if you did. If you're interested in purchasing this console from me, I might make it available online. I'm not really sure how I'm gonna go about selling it, or if I'm gonna sell it at all. I think that it came out really good, and I almost like the idea of holding on to it. But if someone is interested in it, I'm sure they're gonna reach out. So, okay, that's the video. Subscribe for more.